The Red Raiders look to get back on track this time against the UCF Knights team that just had another top 25 victory. In today's preview, we'll discuss the players to watch, the odds and prediction, and much more for Texas Tech and UCF. Hey, how's it going, everybody? It's RC Maxfield here for the Back to 12 podcast. I'm not going to give you the normal spiel about hit that like button, subscribe, and turn on that notification bell. All I'm going to say is if you like the content, simply like the video. Let's jump right into the first question, though, about this game that I have for you guys. Leave me your score prediction. UCF at number 23, Texas Tech. Texas Tech on a 3-game skid. Can the Red Raiders break that flu bug and get back into the win column on the home floor at the friendly confines of the USA? Let me know your score prediction down on the pinned comment below. All right, scene setter for this one. Texas Tech, UCF. It's going to be a good one. I'm actually really excited about this game because this feels like a must-win game for Texas Tech, in my opinion. And this team has responded when they aren't battling the flu pretty damn well this year, in my opinion. Now, this game will be at United Supermarkets Arena. Tip-off is scheduled for 3 p.m. Central Time. You can watch the game on ESPN+. You can listen to Hacks over on, Double T 97.3. Now, the history between UCF and Texas Tech, as you can see at the bottom of your screen, they've never played before. This is the first ever men's basketball matchup between these two programs. Now, UCF comes in, as I mentioned, a little high right now, actually getting Johnny Dawkins his 300th career victory with an upset over the number 23 Oklahoma Sooners. This was last week, and this is the only game, speaking of the Texas Tech game, that is, that the Knights play all week long. Now, Texas Tech, as we know, comes in at 16-6, 5-4 in the Big 12, and is currently on a 3-game skid. Now, the flu bug has been the topic of conversation not only here on this channel, I'm assuming other Texas Tech content providers as well as just social media in general. You have to think that Texas Tech gets a lot closer to 100% having played on Tuesday than having a big gap here going into Saturday. Hopefully, guys will be healthy, and we'll talk about one of those guys that is instrumental to Texas Tech, and hopefully he is healthy moving forward. Now, I will say this. It's interesting looking at Texas Tech coming into this game in the sense of the complete 180 that we thought Grant McCasland was coming into Lubbock, Texas with in terms of mindset for his team. The Red Raiders, as it stands right now, are the most efficient offense in the Big 12 by nearly a point over the Kansas Jayhawks. They are also the least efficient defense by nearly a point compared to the Oklahoma State Cowboys. It's a total 180 in terms of what we thought. If you would have saw that stat right there and heard that stat when Grant McCasland got hired, and I told you that was going to be the case for Texas Tech halfway through the Big 12 slate, I guarantee you would have laughed at me. But here we are. Now, KenPom rankings for these two programs as it currently stands going into this matchup. Texas Tech is the 35th best team in the country, UCF is 66th. Net ranking, Texas Tech is 36th. And then you've got UCF at 65th. Now, players to watch for this one. We've got to start with Warren Washington, right, for number 23 Texas Tech. It is clear the impact Warren Washington has on this team when he is on the floor, but maybe even more so when he's off of it. You want to go back and look at the game recap against Baylor. Ryan Mainville over at Gambling Gauchos had a great shot chart for Baylor where they did not have a shot outside of the paint that wasn't a three-pointer. That's because you didn't have a guy like Warren Washington. Hopefully he can be back to close 100% as possible for the Red Raiders, because we're going to talk about it here in just a minute. UCF has a guy by the name of Diallo that creates a lot of problems. Doesn't play a lot of minutes, but damn, is he impactful when he's on the floor. Warren Washington is going to have a big game for the Red Raiders against the UCF Knights. Now, speaking of a big game, Pop Isaacs. Listen, he was down in Waco, but in his 4 Big 12 home games this year, he's averaging 22 points per game. He's going to have a similar result against the UCF Knights team that really does create a lot of havoc in terms of passing lanes and creating turnovers for their opposition. Pop is going to have to be electric on Saturday, and so far so good in terms of that department at home this season for the Red Raiders. Now, a guy that maybe has gone under the radar because of, the Chance McMillans of the world, Darion Williams, Kerwin Walton, he's been talked about but he's going to have a good game against UCF because UCF does not let teams get to the rim, at least finish at the rim. So Kerwin Walton is going to have to find soft spots in the UCF defense and be ready for catch and shoot opportunities from the likes of, well, hey, you name it. Joe Tucson, Pop Isaacs, Chance McMillan, Darion Williams, whoever it is playmaking for the Red Raiders, Kerwin Walton is going to have to be ready for catch and shoot opportunities as he is shooting north of 50% from three. That's almost as automatic as it gets, people. Just absolutely electric stuff from Kerwin Walton so far. All right, before we get into the UCF part of things, be sure to head on over to Homefield Apparel and use the code BACK212 to get 15% off your new favorite Texas Tech vintage t-shirt, sweatshirt, sweatpants, whatever you want. Homefield's got you covered. Just be sure to use the code BACK212 to save 15% off your entire purchase on homefieldapparel.com. All right, the players to watch for UCF in this one. It's got to start with Jalen Sellers. He's a top 5 guy in the Big 12 when it comes to scoring, averaging 17.2 points per game, just 0.1 points behind Pop Isaacs. He's also one of only 2 players on the UCF Knights team averaging double figures and one of the only 2 guys playing north of 30 minutes. He's one of the guys that really makes things go for the Knights, specifically on the offensive end. Now, the other guy, his partner in crime, you might say, is Darius Johnson. He's the leader of the ship. He really is the guy that makes the Knights offense go in terms of kind of like Joe Tucson for Texas Tech, making sure guys are in the right spots and really creating better opportunities for others. He's also really good at defense, okay? Reading this stat right here, the Knights, force a ton of turnovers, and it fuels their fast break offense. They are 4th among Big 12 teams in steal rate and 96th percentile nationally in points off turnovers per game. Reason being, Johnson, he averages 2. He leads the Knights in steals per game with 2 right there. He's a guy you have to know where he is. Ibrahim Diallo, my goodness, this guy is as efficient as it is in terms of just looking at his stats and what he does when he's on the floor, albeit less than 20 minutes per game, just at 18.5 right now. He's averaging 2 blocks per game. The Knights have elite rim protection, and it starts with Diallo. He's one of those guys where you have to know where he's at all times. Now, that's not to say that the other Knight big men aren't good, but in my opinion, the guy that stands out most on film watching them when he's on the floor is Diallo, specifically for what he does on the defensive end and just making opposing teams really uncomfortable at the rim. They lead the conference in block shots per game and are 4th nationally in block rate, and it starts with Diallo, in my opinion. All right, this is the must-watch matchup for me, and it's a little different from what I typically do here, but Texas Tech has to keep UCF away from the charity stripe. UCF is great at getting to the free throw line. When you look at what they do, they get opposing teams in foul trouble. They are 3rd among Big 12 teams in fouls drawn and free throw attempt rate. That's big because you think about where Texas Tech is at and you think about literally just this past week against Baylor, okay? You had multiple guys, albeit without Warren Washington, in the front court getting foul trouble, what felt like in the blink of an eye. If that happens to Warren Washington, I can promise you UCF with guys like Sellers and Johnson are going to get downhill and trying to get to the charity stripe and finish through contact. Texas Tech has to be sure they're going straight up, keeping their hands up, and really stay out of foul trouble because the UCF Knights will capitalize on that. All right, odds and prediction time. You got Bart Torvart, T-Rank. Texas Tech is a 6-point favorite according to his metrics, and they have a 74% chance to win this game. My prediction, I think Texas Tech gets back on track. This is a must-win game for the Red Raiders, and I typically do not use that term because I think it's overblown, but this truly is a must-win matchup for the Red Raiders if they want to get back on track and really go into the second half of the Big 12 slate with a little bit of momentum. This is a game you have to win, and I have them winning at 81-71. Number 23, Texas Tech gets back in the win column. But before you head out of here, I want to hear from you guys on the pinned comment down below. Leave me your score prediction for UCF versus number 23, Texas Tech. You heard mine. I've got Texas Tech winning 81-71. What's yours? Let me know down on the pinned comment below. And if you haven't already, Be sure to hit that subscribe button for 100% daily Texas Tech videos, whether that's men's basketball, football, recruiting, Big 12 news even. We've got you covered. So like the video, subscribe, and turn on that notification bell to join the most engaging group of Texas Tech fans here on YouTube in the Back to 12 podcast channel.